So we have a couple things to update.
Okay. Oh, hey, look at that. Streaming on YouTube. It worked.
Great. We should probably say what we're here to do.
You wanna go ahead this time?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone joining on YouTube. This is a meeting of the Node tooling working group. Fairly sparsely attended today. I think folks are starting to take summer vacations. So yes, let us go through the agenda.
Sorry, I had a little feedback there from the YouTube channel.
No worries. I am just finding the notes. We probably have a very short meeting today.
Yeah, I guess you have some updates, right?
Yeah, let me, so who's here? We have Ben Coe, we have Ian Sutherland. Sutherland, right? Yeah, I got your name right. Okay. First agenda item is the alerting folks to new features we've added to core. And I think that we had some kind of good action items that came out of our last meeting around that. Did we update the thread accordingly?
That's a good question. I think we
should find the previous.
I posted a comment on there. Check though.
Yeah, you did. I got it here. We discussed in the tooling meeting today the idea of creating a small standalone package you could run in a project that would scan your code and dependencies and generate a list of recommendations. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was going to take that on. I have not made any progress on that yet. Like I said, I'm supposed to be on vacation this week.
Yeah.
But given that my vacation got cut short, I probably have some free time this weekend. So yeah, I might get a start on that. I think that plan still seems more or less reasonable.
It sounds super reasonable to me. Yeah, I mean, like starting with its own tool, if it makes sense to combine it in with something, like if it eventually made sense as a linting rule or a pre-check-in node or something.
That was one thing that I have put some thought into like how you would build this, and I started to realize that basically I'm just building ESLint. But yeah, so like you said, maybe eventually it does make sense to, you know, incorporate it as like a plugin or something like that in ESLint. But I do still think it's actually reasonable to start with just like, I mean, it's easy enough, right, to build a little CLI tool that just scans like the contents of your project for certain things. So yeah, I will still start with that plan, and then yeah, maybe it goes in a different direction in the future, but I do still think that's a reasonable starting point.
You could probably even just wrap ESLint, to be completely honest, like just kind of start with like, you might consider using ESLint even if we don't like publish it as an ESLint rule and just do it as a little standalone CLI.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad idea. I've built other tools as well that like scan projects. Like I built one that scans all your source code for credit card numbers for compliance.
Oh, cool.
I kind of got already like a basic application that does that, so I might start with that. But yeah, that's not a bad idea as well. If it gets tricky to like plug the rules in or something like that, I could try that approach.
Yeah, I was just thinking you might want to use Babel or Sprima or something just so you can actually detect the, like, has someone passed in the parameter recursive, has, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah, well, I guess
rather than like regexing all their source code or something, actually like parsing the AST could be useful.
I guess to start, you're just looking at package JSON, to be honest, for a lot of stuff though, right? So
maybe.
Okay.
Source code. Anyways, yeah, I've got a few ideas there. So yeah, I might hack on that a little this weekend since I've got some unexpected free time.
Okay, sounds good. Recursive copy. I have a PR open.
Yeah, I saw
I'm just looking up. It has pretty good feedback. I feel like there's nothing. I mean, it's still in drafts, so it might get a lot more people pile on. It has people. It's actually gotten a lot of review already, and it's been mostly addressed. People seem happy. But once I take it out of draft, maybe we get more feedback. But I'm a little blocked right now on failing Windows tests because I don't have a Windows environment. So I have requested a Windows machine at Google, which I'm using, but it's very locked down. So I've been spending the last week kind of getting security exemptions and stuff to be able to actually put the build chain I need on it. So a little blocked right now, just waiting on some additional exemptions to go through. And then I will have a Windows machine up that I can run from my MacBook.
I actually had similar issues. So I actually bought like a Windows machine a few months ago, which I'm still in the process of setting up for like dev work. But this is part of the reason why I got it. So maybe I could help out there as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if you had Windows. If I basically start next week and I still don't have my Windows machine runnable, like maybe we could pair together on a session or something.
Sure, yeah.
Like, the frustrating thing is I think it's going to take 5 minutes to fix once I have a Windows machine up and running. So I think it's probably like hopeful it's a bug in the path munching logic that's just like treating a slash the wrong way or something. So that's my hunch. Or maybe there is an actual behavioral difference on Windows, but at least we can see it and skip the test or something. So
does the package that you brought the recursive copy from have Windows tests?
I bet it does. I kind of did a clean room. I wrote the tests kind of as a clean room set of tests to like teach myself how to use the library. I'm probably rediscovering something they've already fixed in their tests. Yeah, they have App Bear here, so they definitely run Windows tests. It's probably the silliest thing from like some of our little bit of refactoring or something.
Right.
But it's been really, really smooth so far. I actually think I found a bug in the source material we were using. So my like clean room rewrite tests helped me find a bug, an existing bug, which I think was good. So yeah, got us to almost 100% test coverage.
Nice.
So
yeah, I reviewed that. And I noticed like, most of the comments, there didn't seem like there were any like major like blocking issues. So that's definitely positive.
Yeah, I think we'll flag in more people once it goes out of draft. But I think in general, it's to me, it's convenient, right? Like it's funny. I was writing the test for it, and again, using Mictor recursive made writing the test for this way easier. and RimRaf recursive is being used to clean up the testing environment. So like you can actually, it's making our own test suite a lot easier having these additional methods. So
yeah, that's awesome. So one thing I didn't comment on the PR was just about the naming, because I know we had kind of talked about it, and I wanted to avoid opening that like can of worms in the PR about whether it should be copy or CP.
Yeah.
But I see no one else has raised an issue there. I honestly don't feel like strongly either way. It's just like we called RM.
My gut is copy. I think because we're not trying to completely copy. Oh, sorry, I'm overloading the word copy. We're not trying to have CP's behavior, like our discussion around should it clobber by default. Like, I don't think we need to reference how copy does it out of the gate. I don't know. Open discussion. We could discuss that in a thread because if we did copy CP, then we probably would want like a force and a recursive option, right?
Don't those options exist in the current implementation? There was an overwrite flag or something, right?
FS Extra called them. overwrite. Yeah, I called it force, but there's no recursive flag because it's always recursive because you use copy file if you. Okay, so here's an argument for copy actually, is we already have copy file. So it feels like kind of natural to have copy and then copy file for a single file, copy for 1 to n files. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Like I said, I don't feel strongly about one or the other. It's just about aiming for consistency in some way.
Yeah, maybe we just rename RM to remove.
Yeah, maybe
we do. Or alias it to remove or something. But we've renamed that thing 7 times at this point. So I don't want to do that either. So.
I know.
But I don't want to claim that it's a port of the copy tool. Whereas I think when we wrote remove, we were actually really trying to closely match RM's behavior. So.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it's a slightly different problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed it didn't come up in the discussion, so I didn't want to mention it and to kind of derail the whole thing. So
I'm kind of leaning towards copy right now because if you're looking up the documentation for copy file, you can see, oh, here's the analogous thing to copy many files, right? It's they kind of line up well. So. Yep. Plus, it's what it's called in FS Extra already. It calls it copy, so it's like bringing over the naming convention of the library that we used. Whereas the library we used for recursive remove was rimraf, so it kind of already had RM baked into its name, right? So,
right. Yeah, I mean that seems like a good enough logic to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was happy to see that. I was actually surprised that ended up being as straightforward as it was.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It took devil's in the details. It definitely took like 8 hours of coding just to get it ported over. But I'm happy with how it looks because the nice thing is we could use the work that was done on rimraf already was a good starting point because it's like set the path for how we would pull in a library, how we would vendor a library for this sort of thing.
Right.
So I used a lot of the same approach we'd used for rimraf, even like the validation approach we used when you and I sat down and pair coded on some of that. So
right. Yeah, I was just surprised. I know we had lots of issues with like rimraf where like it had, initially like a dependency on glob. Just pleasantly surprised that didn't seem like those issues existed in the copy.
No, it was very nice and self-contained, so that was great. Do you want to so kind of put a pin in that? Is it okay if I flag you in our chat room later this week if we need to pair on it?
Yeah, for sure. I need to. That's another one of my weekend projects. Is I need to finish setting up I kind of got the Windows machine set up. Just working on like the WSL and like dev environment kind of setup. Although I guess you need not that if you want to test like Windows proper.
I don't know what I need. I haven't used Windows in years. I only use Windows when
Me either. Yeah. So I'm happy to help with the caveat that I have literally no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's good. We'll figure it out together.
All right.
Next agenda item is source map stuff. Let me see here. I might just take a look if there's any open issues on Node for source map. I think I did see a couple. I always forget what the tag is, though. Oh, there it is. It's plural source maps. Oh, yeah, someone asking for... I'm just reading this thread. It's basically someone asking for source maps to be enabled by default. Because it would be useful for a programming environment, Vite.js, which looks it's a cool, another JavaScript framework. What front-end framework? But just like this here. That's the only outstanding source map issue right now I see. Oh, one cool source map related thing that happened though is it can now be turned on programmatically as of recently.
Okay.
So you could turn it on post hoc in your environment if you wanted, if you already had, say, a server up and running, but you wanted to toggle source maps on and off as an example.
Right.
So I thought that was cool. So I can find that. It's called enable source maps. Should look this up before our meeting. But yes, add API to enable source maps programmatically. So here that is. There's a good reason not to enable source maps by default, in my opinion. It kind of comes up in that thread that was shared, which is it certainly can impact performance because you're loading this big additional file, and also can make errors take longer to pump out. Although you're already, you're about to shut down already when you're printing out an error a lot of the time. But also, we've still been finding some bugs occasionally where we just screw up the source map handling or load them incorrectly. So I'd rather have you have explicitly said you're in a testing environment or in an environment where you want source maps where you've opted into them before we just break people who aren't even trying to use the feature right now, I think. So
does the source map only get referenced when you print a error to the console?
No, it gets cached at the same time that the module is loaded into the require cache.
But I guess what I mean is like if I threw an exception somewhere, would the stack trace in that exception be based on the source map? Or does that not happen until I output it somewhere?
If you capture the stack trace, you will have had the source map applied to it.
Okay.
It's the prepare stack trace logic, which happens when you call when .trace is called on an error.
Okay.
So you would, which was part of why we stopped having our own special error format as well, because it can be a little confusing to have variation in your format of your stack trace, right? So, but I mean, to be fair, like the most of the logic is happening when you're already maybe in some error state. So it's not like happening all the time, but it does mean like if you have a large TypeScript application, the amount of space you're going to take up in memory when your application starts is maybe doubled, because you have each of those files has a relatively large source map that sits next to it, right? So I'm a little concerned about that. Like, I'd rather, it seems to me like a feature you more want when you're testing, so that your testing environment actually maps back to the original line of code, or when you're debugging something in production, maybe you turn it on temporarily because you're having trouble reading the stack traces, right? So,
right.
Yeah. Or if you know your application's not super performance sensitive, you opt to turn it on. Like, it's kind of a case-by-case basis.
I'm curious to try this actually in maybe some of our production applications, just to see what the impact is.
I think it would mostly hit cold start.
Which version of Node is that available in?
It's been available for quite some time, so.
Experimental though, right? But I guess not a lot's really changed since we dropped.
Not much has changed, yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah,
but you'll still have the difference. You'll still have the I don't think you get the stack trace that's consistent until Node 16 maybe.
Okay.
Like the one that doesn't deviate from a normal stack trace.
Right, because you tried backporting that, right, and it was tricky.
Yeah, I could not get the test ASAN to pass and gave up eventually.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So whatever, in a few years, it will be the same everywhere. But I don't know. I spent like quite a few hours and could not get those tests to pass. So.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
I mean, obviously, it's not failing on the mainline branch because we've been landing code left, right, and center. So who knows why the backport was grumpy? But it's not a clean backport.
Yeah.
The final agenda item, but you should you should play with it. Anyways, like if your environment doesn't really, I'd be curious to know your benchmarks. Anyways, it's in like a real production environment,
right?
I'll
see if I have an opportunity to try it.
For my team at Google, we don't use like TS Node. We compile our TypeScript and then run tests against the compiled TypeScript. So it's really useful for us to be able to just turn on the source map flag in Mocha so that we map back to the rate line of code in our unit test failures.
Right.
So that's a really good use case. I've been thinking about turning it on in our production environment because like my team's production environment is low traffic because it's just, we just do like tooling for tons of teams at Google. So like we're like a large pro bot deployment that gets maybe a few million events a day, but not like, we're not talking about thousands of events a second or anything. Like it's millions a day. So we can probably take the performance hit fine and like just have nicer stack traces.
It'd be good. Interesting to like benchmark the performance hit in different applications.
Yeah, then we can make a more educated
recommendation,
right?
Yeah, like I wonder if there's a couple like popular open source projects or something that we could try benchmarking it in.
I'd still be a little concerned, like, because I feel that it has a lot of potential to impact, like, just memory footprint of TypeScript apps would significantly increase. Right. So I don't know. Maybe I'm being too conservative.
I'm still not necessarily advocating like enabling it by default. I just mean it would be interesting to know like.
No, yeah, that makes sense.
That memory overhead.
The last agenda item is argument parsing, which I don't think, doesn't sound like there's been any additional work on.
Not as far as I know. My plan was to try and use that in the tool for pointing out like, updates that have been made to Node Core, but I have not gotten that far. Also, I don't think we've published that yet. I know we have like kind of a minimal working version. I don't think it's been published to NPM though.
Maybe prod Darcy on that, like, and see if, because he probably has the permission to where we want to, like, we'll need to make sure we have access to the package organization.
Right. Yeah, I don't think
publish it.
Access right now. So yeah, I can always message him and see if we can get like the initial version published. Oh, are you still there? Seem to have lost Ben for a moment. Well, this is awkward. Hey, there you are.
Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
It's me here by myself for a couple minutes. It was nice and awkward.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything on the agenda. So, yeah, I'll be trying to get the copy recursive over the finish line. And yeah, I'll be curious to see your feedback once you start playing with the argument parser.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been inspired to like keep looking down just the list of top NPM modules and seeing if there are ones that make sense either in the JavaScript standards, like either to be standardized in W3C or in TC39, or to like are good candidates for like us to standardize with regards to tooling in the Node.js code base. Because
right.
this seems to have borne fruit so far, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I noticed random UUID is available, I think, like everywhere now.
It's available in Chrome and Node and Dino, and I'm really hopeful that Firefox will adopt too. Like I think we've at least been, asked for their position on standards, and I've been talking with them. So, but yeah, I think it's super useful.
Yeah, well, that's something like I think we use that in like every single one of our services and most of our libraries. So like just having it built in seems great. So yeah, this has been fruitful for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll have to maybe take a step back after we get. The reason I brought that up is I'm really excited with the command line argument parser. I think I think that's really in the similar vein where it will really be a quality of life improvement for Node people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then we're going to be like, then we've checked some boxes though. Like it's been slow, but like
when you look back though, over it's like, oh, we got recursive copy, rimraf, make derp, command line argument parsing, source maps. Actually pretty good.
Yeah, not too shabby, right? Like, and I think it's stuff that is, like I said, quality of life improvements for users. Like, because if you come in and haven't been tuned into the community for years, like having just a few more batteries is nice. Like you don't want to like immediately have to go buy 10 AA batteries to get your toy working, right? So
I definitely think it's positive. Maybe in the fall, I think kind of what you were getting at there maybe is like, maybe in the fall, once we get like argument parsing and that kind of stuff shipped, maybe we need to do a little bit more of a roadmap kind of exercise and figure out like what's next.
Yes. Yeah. Like poll the community and try to see each other again, hopefully in person at some point. And
yeah. And hopefully there will be some conferences coming up where we could do, like the session we did at Node Interactive, like the, kind of open session where people can discuss topics and stuff. That would be helpful. We can do an online version of that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to let you go and start winding down for the week because I think we're through the agenda. So talk soon. Thanks everyone who joined online. Thanks for, hey, Steven, I saw you in chat. Good to talk to you. See folks